Hi everyone, my name is Kayla and welcome back to Kay's Hidden Shelf where we talk about books. Today I have a life update for you as well as my September wrap up. Now I wasn't able to read a whole lot back in September and that largely has to do with my life update, which is my fiance and I were finally able to get married. We originally planned to get married back in 2020 and of course nothing happened then. So we had tried to reschedule it a few times, wasn't able to get a solid date because of all of the lockdowns here, but we were finally able to tie the knot back at the end of September, and it was a gorgeous day. We really couldn't have asked for a better day. We had an outdoor wedding and the weather was beautiful. All of our family and friends were there, and it was just amazing. We made so many memories, and I am just so happy that we were able to do that and it turned out as beautiful as it did. So as a result, I only read about 2 books plus a beta read. So I'm going to go through and share all of that with you. I'm also getting over a cold for the second time in 2 weeks. So I apologize if my voice cuts out. I'll try and catch it in editing. But in the meantime, let's dive in with the first book, which was The Return of the Knights by Gregory Kontaxis. Now I did receive this copy in exchange for an honest review from the author. Originally published in Greek, the author had this translated into English, and this is book 1 in the Dance of Light series. Now I will say that I think readers will be pulled in by the bloody battles, the classic fantasy tropes, and the political intrigue that takes place in this Greek fantasy epic. The story follows the conflicts between the Queen of Nightdorn and a leader of a rebellion named Walter Thorn. Walter is a ruthless man, and he will stop at nothing to obtain her throne, and his victory seems close at hand. After several losses to Walter and no hope in sight, a strange young man arrives. His name is Elliot, and he has a plan that could save the queen in her hour of need. Elliot is a young man trained by his master towards one purpose and was raised in a small village. Despite his humble upbringing, he demonstrates great skill and loyalty toward the Queen of Nightdorn. Although he shows great skill with combat and strategy, he's also rash, arrogant, and at times naive. To me, this made Elliot a believable yet flawed protagonist. There were plenty of times I was rooting both for and against him based on his choices and behavior, which, considering he is about 17 years old throughout the story, makes sense. Walter, on the other hand, quickly caught my attention. He is unapologetically cruel in his effort to obtain the throne. The means he uses to punish and the POV chapters that we got from him showed that he has a calculating mind and a remorseless heart, which made him a compelling villain for me. I also found the scheming, strategies, betrayals, and all of the tensions within the plot were well written. All of these developments were enticing in their complexity, and it feels like we only scratched the surface. The same can also be said for the world, lore, and the magical creatures we see in this. The scope of the world feels large and built carefully while still maintaining some air of mystery, as we don't learn everything there is quite yet in this book. As this is the author's debut and the first in the series, there is so much more to explore in this, and the world and all of the plotting makes it enticing to continue. I was also surprised by how quickly I was pulled into the story, the world, the characters, and the severity of their circumstances. Within the first 20%, Gregory Kontaxis drops readers right into action and history, making this political intrigue accessible. Not only that, but it features knights, animal companions, the chosen one trope, along with the band of misfit tropes, as well as reveals, twists, and war, and so much more. However, as a character-driven reader, I will say that I often was pulled out of the reading experience due to the style of storytelling in this. It's a plot-driven story that just lacked the character growth that I often crave in stories and relied a lot on telling rather than showing. Despite this, the complexity of the world, the plot, the fantastic action scenes remained enticing and shows that Gregory Kontaxis is an author to watch. Overall, I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. stars. While the storytelling didn't quite fit my taste, there's a lot in here that did and has left me curious about what will happen next. I'm actually reading the e-arc for the novella that will be coming out soon, and that is called The Night of the Moon. So far, it has been a improvement on the writing in this, which is exactly what I love seeing with authors. I love to see their writing grow, how it develops, and the story so far has been a nice callback to some of the characters that we meet here. I also think that fantasy readers who enjoy plot-driven political fantasies set in a Greek-inspired world will absolutely have a great time with this. After that, I read Call of the Bone Ships by R.J. Barker. I am loving this series so much. This sequel was actually much more interesting to me than the first one. I feel like a big hurdle of the first book for me was getting used to the world. It is quite unique. It has a lot of terminology to it, different types of creatures, and the sequel just flowed a lot better for me. As mentioned before, I'm not quite ready to go into full in-depth reviews on each individual book within the trilogy, as I'd actually like to do a full trilogy review on the channel once I'm done. In the meantime, I'll keep this one brief. It was a 5 out of 5 star read for me. Like I said, I felt like I settled into the world much more, got used to the characters, and because of that, this just flew by for me. It was filled with high stakes, quirky, and lovable characters with unique world building and bonds that are tested by the tides. I've absolutely come to love the characters Joran, the Ghalame, as well as Lucky Mies, and the developments in this were just incredibly enticing. If you have been sleeping on this series, I highly recommend giving it a try. Like I said, the first book was a little trickier for me, just in terms of getting used to the world. That took some time for me to settle into, but I absolutely love the story and the characters. Book 2 was easy for me to slip into, and I mean, everyone's reading experience is going to be different. As I was reading this with some friends over on the Page Turners Discord, this was different for everyone. Some people didn't find this as good as book 1, but still had a great time with it and are moving on to book 3. So there's definitely some love here for it, and I'm looking forward to doing a deeper dive on the channel coming soon. And finally, as mentioned, I was honored to be able to beta read The Shadow of Hyperion by JCM Bern, which is turn 4 in the Hybrid Helix series. Now, I'm actually not going to do a review of this because I did a beta read. I don't feel like I can do that justice. So my plan is to actually reread this now that it's been released so that I can do a proper review for it. However, with that being said, I can say that I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to rereading it. Now, some of you might be asking, Kayla, since when have you done beta reads? Why haven't you talked about it? Well, this is something that I actually started back towards the spring and summer of this year. I had started getting some requests, mostly from people that I've read books from before or some authors who had become friends over time. I haven't really talked about it on the channel for a few reasons, but mainly because it was new and I was still learning how to do a beta read, because beta reading is so much different than just reading and reviewing. You're giving constructive criticism to the author on aspects of the book as you're reading, and every author is different in their expectations from the beta reader. It's just been a fantastic experience, and I do hope to be able to contribute in beta reads in the future now that I have more time, especially that the wedding is done. I don't have to organize an event, a major event, and all the small details. I now have more time to devote to reading, reviewing, and just everything relating to it, especially with the channel as well and upcoming videos. So that is everything I read in September. I am just so excited to be back to my normal routine, to dedicate more time to reading, reviewing, making videos for all of you. And I would love to know, what did you read in September? Was there anything that stood out or was different than what you would normally read? Leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. As always, thank you so much for watching, and take care of yourselves.